Massive hit. Oh, they've clipped. Off. How he held on to that, I don't know. This is the biggest crash in RGL history. He's out of control and into the wall. Brace yourselves, this is going to be action-packed. Hi and welcome to the RGL Forza Championships for 2013. The development series, round 6, coming at you right now. And moving into the A-Class vehicles. And it's the 1997 BMW M3. Very popular car. And a little bit unpopular with some of the drivers. Its starting PI was 468. Obviously going up to a maximum of 600, that's top of A class, so a lot of room to work with for the drivers when it came to upgrading, and the aspiration had to remain natural as with real drive, but it did cause some headaches with drivers trying to find the right balance, because when you lighten this car right up you could really feel that, and the handling didn't make it exceptionally good. So a very challenging car. The main comments throughout the paddock and lead up, and of course the added difficulty is the track. Catalunya Grand Prix circuit, very technical circuit, and made it all the more difficult for some of these drivers to get their heads around both the upgrades and that, trying to compete with times, some of them in the 157s and 158s, which is very fast, while others struggled to even break the 2-minute barrier. That was mainly the tier 2 drivers, but nonetheless that is part of this development series, to see how well drivers can handle all aspects, from tuning, upgrading and putting your best laps in on the track. So looking at qualifying, you can see there front row Bretley in that green machine. He's got pole position once again with a 157.308, almost a full second ahead of his arch nemesis in twisty corners, creating rather big rivalry here. Cutter's moving up again, another high place in P3, so he's really hitting his straps now, and recoil very confident with his vehicle going into this round. Meanwhile, a Ninja was unable to qualify where he probably should have, because his lap was not clean, but a 158.314 would have put him pretty high up in the order, so look out for him. He may gain quite a few spots yet in this race. Listen out for these cars, they do sound pretty awesome when they get started. 3 lights, out, and away we go. Bretley off to a nice clean start, as is everybody. And look at that twisty big jump, recoil on the outside, Cutter's on the inside. Bretley swamped going into turn 1. So Bretley must have missed a gear here, but let's see what's happening. Recoil on the outside of Twisty, he's not going to get that done. Meanwhile, Bretley seems to have taken care of Cutter's. And Bretley dropping from first to third in a matter of one corner, effectively. Highboy in fourth, all over the back of Cutter's at the moment. And now Bretley looking for a move on recoil. Moving up on the inside, he's got the inside line. Recoil just stepping it out a bit, but if he can keep his traction here, he's got the best advantage going into turn 4. And he looks to have that covered. And now Bretley looking for the crisscross. He's side by side again, so he could have recoil going into the next turn. And he's made it stick, so Bretley got the pass in on recoil, so that was short-lived. Meanwhile, Catters has managed to defend off Highboy. And now on board with recoil, chasing Bretley once again. But as I mentioned, very confident in his vehicle setup for the Taztec BMW. In the Twisty just seeming to have to brake a little bit earlier than these two. They gain in some time, but you can just see there Bretley just struggling a little bit with the car. Meanwhile, Recoils, it just looks to be on rails at the moment. And just going through the turn 13-14 chicane, a spot where the stewards will be watching out for excessive corner cutting. There was a moment just then, I believe, Bretley taking some liberties at turn 13. On board now with the 711 Taztec BMW in Highboy. He's right in between Alcimo and Gundam. So Highboy has dropped a position to Alcimo. He was behind Catters at one point there. And you're watching as well, I think on the timesheets, looks to have dropped a few spots. Twisty with the fastest lap. And we can see, looking at that folder, yeah, you're watching it's dropped away. There's Scavenger and Jake ahead, so something's happened there. We might get a look in on that in a moment. Oh, and Alcimo deep into turn 4, and he's going to lose both those positions unless he might be able to hold off Gundam going into the next turn. But looks like Gundam might have this one done and dusted. Alcimo's just following behind him, so a little bit late on the brakes. He did do well to control that, not end up in the sand, so not too much damage done. And now he's coming back at Gundam. And now Bretley starting to creep up on Twisty. And there's these three guys in first, second and third just pulling away from Catters. Here's a replay now. So this is you watching, so this will explain what's happened here. So going through the corner, oh, there's Ninja spun around sideways. We'll get another angle hopefully to explain that a bit more. Meanwhile the cars all file through. And on board with you watching, so yeah, Ninja's had to brake to avoid contact with his teammate one step ahead, and you watching wasn't expecting that, going through at a sort of normal pace and has spun him around, so it's unfortunate. And both those drivers dropped off to the back of the field. Meanwhile Bretley with the fastest lap and right on the back of Twisty corners. They've managed to peel away from Recoil a bit, probably got about 3 or 4 car lengths on him. So now Twisty needing to respond, and Bretley right up the back, and look at that, under brakes, gaining so much time. Now again into turn 5. Very good exit by all 3 drivers there. And look at that, he's just, oh, Twisty just going wide but managing to save that. Another couple of centimetres to the right and he might have found himself back in position 2. On board now with Fear Bretley. Going into turn 9, and we'll see how he goes under brakes. So look at that, all the way up onto the back. Oh, Twisty sideways. Can he get past? There's a bit of contact, but no real room to make a move. And now Bretley just coming to terms with his vehicle. He's gone through that turn 11 much more smoothly compared to lap 1. And now turns 13, 14. Bretley, another bit of a bump on the back end of Twisty. He did take that a little bit more straight out of turn 14. Meanwhile, the 9394 leaderboard, we can see their Gundam and you're watching are the only ones to pit. And that we'll see Gundam move back up the field soon. So a few drivers have gained some positions. Ninja, even after suffering that incident, is back up a bunch of spots as well. So Recoil now right back in this. Either the front 2 runners have dropped a bit of pace, or Recoil has put in one of his best last sectors in the previous lap. And it looks like he's going to be putting the pressure now on Fear Bretley. It's fantastic to see. It's what we've been used to is Bretley and Twisty heading off into the sunset, so to speak. But this time they have another challenger, and Catters is just waiting in the wings. Any mistake of some sort, and he's got the opportunity to pounce. And he's generally keeping at pace with them, probably losing maybe 2/10 every lap. On board with Recall now as he follows Bretley towards turn 9. And they're starting to really bunch up here. He's not that far away from possibly making a move. Oh, very close there under brakes. And there goes Bretley again, stepping it out. It's one of those really painful things with that turn. Recoil, he's looking to make a pass. He's trying to line himself up through the turns, straight line that one a little bit. It's giving him an opportunity here to make a pass, and he is on the inside of Bretley. He's going to make this stick. He's got the exit speed, but Bretley is still close enough to respond with a pass of his own. Recoil just moving over slightly to defend that line from Bretley, make it a little bit harder, but Bretley is on the inside looking to pass. Recoil keeping him at bay slightly as they go through turns 2 and 3 now, heading towards turn 4. Bretley may look for a pass on the inside. He seems to have pretty good knack for it. Tried it on lap 1 and succeeded against Recoil. Recoil just a little bit wider out of that. Bretley, whoa, big moment, hitting the grass but still managing to maintain his momentum. And now the hunt is on for Recoil, and they seem to have lost a little bit of pace because Catters is coming back at them and Twisty's moving away, so these two just in their little battle starting to lose a little bit of time. And things starting to settle down a little bit here. I don't think Bretley's got the right speed to be able to make any attack on Recoil heading into the hard left-hander here at turn 9. Is a very good passing opportunity there, especially if you get that exit nailed coming out of turn 8. So now Recoil, you can see just a little bit better control of the car through this big sweeping turn. And Recoil actually bringing back a bit of ground on Twisty now. And while we're on board with him, Bretley there just peeling off into the pit, bit of a late dive, so he's looking for the undercut. Meanwhile, we're going to take you for a ride with the BMW. Turn your sound up and enjoy this lap. Recall really coming up onto the back of Twisty over the period of that lap, and they're both in the pit now. We will get a look in at where Bretley is on track, and we'll see how this shapes up. This could be pretty close. Recall and Twisty have had the upper hand here, heading into the pit lane with a bit of a lead. And you can see just following Twisty out of pit lane. And it looks like these two might have Bretley covered going into turn 1. Now Bretley just approaching the tower, just gone past, so these guys have got it covered. Recoil probably about a second ahead of Bretley at the moment. So he's got cold tyres, they both have got cold tyres. Bretley has a chance to regain some of that lost time on this lap, and you can see Catters there just in the background, not too far behind. So he really has managed to maintain that speed with these guys, just not enough to make any inroads on them. Well, Bretley just a little bit deep, really trying to push this BMW as far as he can, give himself a best shot at gaining a position before the end of the race. We've only got a lap and a half to go. And these three drivers really showing some class with their race today. Moving ahead, we go to the Sukuba short circuit with the Lotus 211 vehicle. So back to a short track, lots of laps, and a very different type of car. One that will really work for these highly skilled drivers. Now coming around towards the end of the penultimate lap, Twisty leading the way probably comfortably at the moment, because unless he makes a mistake, looking at Bretley gaining on Recall, they're going to have their hands full. And Bretley just breaking down the gap there, meanwhile Twisty just peeling away a little bit. One lap to go. Can Recall get his best finish yet? Yeah, looks like these cars do sound pretty awesome when they're all geared up with the upgrades that these drivers have put to them, and still given all that flexibility, the freedom to upgrade how you wish, with the exception of those two rules on the aspiration and drivetrain. It's amazing how close these drivers can get with their lap times, and right now their performance on track. Bretley now all over the back of Recall, a lot of pressure on the Taztec driver right now, and you can just see how much Bretley's pushing again off the track but not losing too much time. And now it's time for Recall to get nervous. He's the one in front, he doesn't want to lose this position. Bretley is hunting him down, and in cases like this sometimes it is much easier to be the hunter rather than the hunted. And Bretley, look at the momentum he's got. This could be a move. He will look for a pass for sure. He's not going to waste this. Going into turn 9, he's a little bit late under the brakes. He's come across with some contact. Recall looking to gain back alongside each other, and Bretley shut the door on Recall. I can't say that was the best move. And now Recall sort of returned a bit of serve. He's given him a bit of a tap, sent him off. But look at that, he's done the right thing. He's redressed that. He didn't want to make a pass based on that. Recall's not giving up just yet. Look at this. One bump. Can he get him again? No. So there's no nose there, but twisty corners once again, leading from the front and winning his. Oh, and there's Recoil, and Bretley. Recoil's unable to regain that position. So Bretley gaining a position on the last lap with only a few more turns to go. has managed to stay in touch and not drop too many points to Twisty in the battle for the championship. Meanwhile, Catter's not too far behind them, and neither was Highboy. Highboy regaining some ground, and his position, Jake Mo, a pretty good effort, but a little bit of a gap back to him. Let's take a look at the championship standings now, and 81 points is the difference between these two front runners before we have a larger jump back to Recall and Elsimo, who are effectively fighting for third place. You watch them with a bit of luck, maybe a chance at that, but Recall has actually moved ahead of Elsimo. Meanwhile, we have Ninja and Scavenger also in a close battle together. So that ends the round 6 for the DVS. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for round 7. Thank you and goodbye.